My husband's affair, my children's tears, a painful divorce story. This story, titled My Husband's Affair, My Children's Tears, is not just about heartbreak. It's about betrayal, resilience, and finding a way forward when your world falls apart. My name is Amanda. I'm 42 years old and I'm a mother of two. I grew up in a small town in Michigan, but my story takes place in the suburbs of Chicago, where I thought I was building my happily ever after. For 15 years, I was married to a man I believed was my soulmate. Mark and I met in college, and from the moment we locked eyes across the library, it felt like destiny. He was charming, ambitious, and had a smile that could light up the darkest room. We built a life together, a home filled with laughter, shared dreams, and two beautiful children, Emma and Noah. For years, I thought we had it all. I was the mom who packed lunches with little notes inside, who attended every soccer game and dance recital. Mark was the dad who always seemed too busy with work, but made time for bedtime stories and Sunday morning pancakes. We weren't perfect, but we were a team, or so I thought. It all started with a gut feeling. Isn't it strange how your intuition can sense something's wrong even before your mind catches up? Mark had been working late more often, his excuses piling up like unanswered questions. He'd become distant, his laughter less frequent, his touch less warm. At first I told myself I was overthinking it. After all, marriages go through phases, right? But then I found the message. It was a Saturday afternoon, and Mark had left his phone on the kitchen counter. I wasn't snooping, I swear I wasn't. But when a text notification popped up, I saw a name I didn't recognize. Jess. The message was innocent on the surface. Something about meeting later that week, but it didn't sit right with me. My heart raced as I scrolled through their conversation. What started as casual exchanges quickly turned into flirtation, then something far more intimate. I couldn't breathe. My hands shook as I read words that shattered the image of the man I thought I knew. That night, I confronted him. Mark didn't deny it. He didn't even try to lie. Instead, he looked at me with an expression I'll never forget, one of guilt, frustration, and something that almost resembled relief. "I didn't mean for it to happen," he said, his voice flat. "But I don't think I'm happy anymore, Amanda." Happy. That word echoed in my mind, mocking me. Was I not enough? Was our family not enough? The questions swirled in my head, each one more painful than the last. Mark moved out a week later. He said it was to give us space, but deep down I knew it was to be with her. Jess, the woman who had stolen not just my husband, but the life I had built. The hardest part wasn't losing Mark. It was explaining the situation to Emma and Noah. Emma, at 13, was old enough to understand the cracks forming in our family. She cried silently when I told her, her big brown eyes filled with questions I couldn't answer. Noah, only 8, didn't fully grasp what was happening. "Why can't Daddy stay here?" he asked, his voice trembling. Did I do something wrong? How do you explain to your children that their father chose someone else? How do you shield them from the pain when it's written all over your own face? I tried to be strong for them, to hold it together when all I wanted to do was fall apart. But the nights were the hardest. After tucking them into bed, I would sit in the silence of our once happy home and let the tears come. Grief, anger, betrayal. It all poured out, leaving me hollow and exhausted. The weeks turned into months, and the reality of divorce settled in. Lawyers, custody arrangements, dividing assets. It was a whirlwind of decisions and paperwork, each step feeling like another nail in the coffin of our marriage. Mark's relationship with Jess became public quickly, and seeing them together felt like a knife to the heart. They looked happy, carefree, as if the destruction they'd caused didn't exist. And while I wanted to hate him, to scream at him for what he had done, I couldn't, because Emma and Noah still loved their dad. And no matter how much he had hurt me, I couldn't take that away from them. But in the midst of the pain, something unexpected happened. I started to find strength. It began with small things, taking long walks to clear my mind, rediscovering hobbies I had forgotten, leaning on friends who reminded me that I wasn't alone. Slowly, I began to rebuild my life, not as Mark's wife, but as Amanda. I poured my energy into being the best mother I could be. I showed up for Emma and Noah in ways I hadn't before, not because I hadn't loved them enough, but because I had been so focused on holding everything together. Now it was just the three of us, and we became a team in a way I hadn't thought possible. As the months went by, I began to embrace a new sense of purpose. I realized that while I couldn't change what had happened, I could control how I responded to it, for myself and for my children. The road to healing wasn't smooth, but it was one I walked with determination. One day, Emma came to me with tears in her eyes. "Mom," she said, her voice shaking, "why does Daddy care more about her than us?" Her words broke my heart, but I knew I had to be honest without feeding into her pain. "Emma," I said, pulling her into a hug, "your dad loves you and your brother. His choices have hurt all of us, but that doesn't mean his love for you has changed. Sometimes adults make decisions that don't make sense, even to themselves." It wasn't the perfect answer, but it was the best I could offer. And in that moment, I realized that part of my healing wasn't just about moving on. It was about helping my children navigate their own grief and confusion. For Noah, the process was different. He withdrew at first, becoming quieter and more reserved. But one evening, as we sat on the couch watching his favorite movie, he turned to me and said, "Mom, do you think our family will ever be happy again?" I smiled through the lump in my throat. "I think happiness doesn't always look the way we expect it to," I said. "But yes, Noah, I believe we'll find our own kind of happy. We're still a family, and we always will be." I began to focus on creating new traditions for the three of us. We started having Friday night movie marathons, complete with popcorn and silly pajama contests. On Sundays, we went on hikes or visited museums. It wasn't about replacing the life we had lost, it was about building something new. Something that was ours. Through it all, I found strength in my support system. Friends who showed up with meals and a listening ear. Family members who reminded me of my worth when I doubted it most. And therapy, which became a safe space for me to process the pain and learn how to move forward. One pivotal moment came a year after the divorce was finalized. Emma had a dance recital, and Noah had a soccer game the same weekend. Mark was supposed to attend both, but at the last minute, he canceled, citing a work conflict. Emma was devastated, her hurt spilling over in angry tears. "Why does he keep choosing her over us?" she shouted, her voice echoing through the house. I wanted to join her in her anger, to validate every ounce of her frustration. But instead, I knelt down and held her hands. "Emma, I know it hurts, and it's okay to feel angry and sad. But we can't control what your dad does. What we can control is how we show up for each other. And I'm here for you, always." Her tears softened, and she nodded. That weekend, I made it my mission to show my kids that they were loved. At Emma's recital, I cheered the loudest. At Noah's game, I was on the sidelines, clapping and shouting his name. It wasn't about filling Mark's absence. It was about being present for them in a way they could feel. As time went on, I began to rediscover myself in ways I hadn't expected. I returned to painting, something I hadn't done since college. The canvas became a space for me to express emotions I couldn't put into words. Each stroke of color felt like a step toward reclaiming my identity. I also began to open myself up to the possibility of love again. It wasn't easy, and it didn't happen overnight, but I met someone, a kind, patient man named Daniel, who reminded me that love doesn't have to hurt. He didn't try to replace what I had lost. Instead, he became a partner who supported me as I continued to heal. Today, my life looks very different from what I had envisioned all those years ago. My relationship with Mark remains complicated. He's still in Emma and Noah's lives, though not as consistently as I wish he were. I've learned to let go of the anger, not for his sake, but for mine. Carrying that weight only held me back, and I refused to let it define me. Emma and Noah are thriving in their own ways. Emma is discovering her passion for art, just like her mom, and Noah is excelling on the soccer field. They've shown resilience and strength that inspire me every day. Looking back, I realized that the betrayal I experienced didn't break me. It transformed me. It forced me to confront my own strength, to redefine what family and love mean to me. I'm not the same woman I was before the affair, and for that, I'm grateful. This story isn't just about heartbreak, it's about hope. It's about learning to find joy in the midst of pain and building a life that feels authentic and whole. If this story has resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Have you faced betrayal or rebuilt your life after heartbreak? Let's support each other and remind one another that we're never alone in our struggles. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future stories of resilience and healing. Together, we can create a community of hope, love, and strength. Thank you for listening, and remember, even in the face of heartbreak, you have the power to rise.